Signora,
Hello.
hello. How are you?
Very well. Thank you very much.
How's everything?
Everything is going fine. Thanks very much for this invite. I
We
am thrilled to be with you guys. SPE Kuwait
we
student
are
section.
we are so appreciative that you took the time to come.
Thank
Uh, you are very, very, very active in the SPEAK community. Yes,
thank
I
you.
always see you around in many conferences in the Gulf and even internationally.
Yeah.
So we are very appreciative to have you. Uh, so I'll just start with a very short introduction for the viewers so that they know who you are.
Okay.
You are an executive consultant in KOC, and especially for the north of Kuwait, right?
Yes.
For the north of Kuwait.
For the north.
Uh, yeah. You are also a SPE honorary member and distinguished lecturer, and you are an SEG board member, which is the Society of Exploration of Geophysicists, and you are the chair of the SPE Business Management and Leadership Committee.
Yes.
So you're a very, very active and busy person.
It seems so.
Yes. So first, I thought to ask you. Obviously, our topic is about the life of women in the petroleum world,
Yes.
and you have a very successful and long career in the petroleum world. But maybe we should start at the beginning.
Okay.
So we want to know the story of Maria Capella. How did she get into the oil and gas industry in
Okay.
the first place?
That's a very good question. Thank you for that. And Ibrahim, first of all, I would like to congratulate the SPE
Thank you.
Kuwait section. Why don't
Thank you
you
so
tell
much.
us about the award? This is a good opportunity for you to highlight your award.
Thank you. Yes, we recently participated in the Petrobol competition for the Middle East and North Africa section.
Yes,
So we got first place.
correct.
Alhamdulillah, we got
I
first
mean,
place,
and
yes.
that is
So
not
something good for Kuwait.
exactly, and that is nothing short of remarkable. So
Thank you so,
congratulations.
thank you
We are
so much.
you make us proud. I mean,
Thank you.
the whole region is looking up to the Kuwait University SPE student section. I
Thank you so
think
much.
that we need to start this
Of
session
course.
by congratulating this extraordinary achievement. So,
Thank you so much.
and thank
God
you
bless
again
you.
for the invitation. Thank you again for the invitation.
Glad to have you.
I would like to, you want me to start from the beginning. So one of the things that perhaps is instrumental, right, in achieving a career in the petroleum industry is going through what are called the STEM careers: science, technology, engineering, and math. Okay, STEM careers. And I would say that from when I was a very small child, I was always fascinated by science, nature. And I remember that in one of the birthdays, I received as a present, a chemistry lab,
Oh,
a
yeah, yeah,
toy
yeah. The one
that
for
was,
kids. Yeah, yeah.
yes, the one for kids, but it was very complete. And it had all kinds of, chemicals and powders and beautiful things and a small microscope.
Okay.
And the microscope also had many types of thin sections and samples and things. So I received these presents, and I think that ignited in me a passion for science, for researching, for investigating everything around me. Then at school, I had very excellent, teachers. I would say they were outstanding, and they were able to ignite you with this motivation about science. And I would say that perhaps it was also very important is that I loved the mathematics and physics when I studied that in high school. So when the moment came for me to study at the university, my preference was divided. I
Okay.
wanted to study I was very passionate about biology,
Okay.
and I was very passionate about physics.
Okay.
And I must say that I chose physics. You may wonder, well, how come and why? And the thing is that I chose physics because it seemed to me it was more of a basic science, a predictive science per se, rather than biology that was more descriptive in many ways, as per my comprehension at the time. So I went on to study physics, and through the career, all this happened in Venezuela. In the university, I discovered our careers are 5 years in Venezuela.
This is the same as Kuwait.
So you say, we are starting to see the similarities.
Okay, yes.
And yes, and when I was about in the third, or let's say starting the fourth year of the career, I became a little bit demotivated because
Okay.
I was the only woman studying physics.
In the whole university?
Yes. And,
oh, wow.
Yes, there were not a lot of people studying in every course of physics, but let's say 20, 30 people, and the only woman. So it didn't feel right in the sense that it is lonely, right? And in many ways, it was kind of awkward. Plus, I loved the laboratories and all that, but a lot of subjects were very theoretical, fundamental physics. So what I did is that the physics career had 3 options: plasma physics, theoretical physics, and something strange called geophysics. I said,
okay.
Geophysics? What is that? So I went to understand and ask, what is geophysics? And they explained, well, that is, you use physics theories and foundations to study the underground, and that is applicable to the oil industry. I said, whoa, imagine living in Venezuela, where the most important budget generator and the revenue for the country, the whole country, is the oil industry. I said, oh wow, I mean, I am a practical person, and I discovered, okay, this is what I want to do. So I took the first subject of geophysics ever in my life, and what they did is that immediately they took us to a field trip. We went with professors, yes, the people who were choosing that option. And we went, it was a group of about 12 students. And we went, again, I was the only woman, but I was happy with this. There was, one of the professors was a woman, she was a geologist. Okay. And we went with a geologist and with geophysicist professors to the field. And they started to explain to us, the outcrops and the folds and the layers. And it was like an epiphany for me. It was a discovery. I could never see again at the rocks at the same way, So my perspective completely changed, and I fell in love with geology, with geophysics, with all these kind of things. And well, after that, I did an internship in the National Oil Company of Venezuela, and that was a wonderful internship, I must say.
That was still while you were in university?
Yes, in the last year of the university, I did this internship, and in the internship, they arranged for a wonderful program. We went to the Maracaibo Lake to, a drilling rig, and not only that, we went to see a seismic acquisition in the flatlands of Venezuela. Plus, they also sent us to the new areas in Venezuela where they were acquiring well logs. And finally, they also engage the students in the actual work, in the laboratories for the core description and for the thin sections and all that. I had a blast, I must say. And I met at that time several women role models in the sense that they were already established in Venezuela. Many women had worked in the oil industry since the very early years of the oil industry. And when I saw these women that were, team leaders and managers, and they were working, yes, I felt, okay, this is my life, this is my career. And when I graduated, I joined the National Oil Company of Venezuela, which is PDVSA. That is my, the very starting moment of my career.
But it's a very nice story. I like how, since you were young, you were always interested in the STEM, and then you actually went to the field and you saw and you fell in love with the profession, I guess.
Absolutely. Yes.
You mentioned that you were the only female studying physics at that time.
Yes.
I think in Kuwait University is kind of the opposite.
Oh, really?
In some of my classes, I'm the only
The
I'm
only
the only
man?
boy. Yes.
Oh no.
The
Kind of weird,
the
yeah.
the petroleum, especially petroleum engineering, is a very, very high percentage are females. I think it's 70% and above. In general, in Kuwait University, the majority of the students are female, anyways. So
Okay.
times have changed.
Sure, sure.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Uh, you've been in Kuwait for about 10 years,
Yes,
I think
11
almost
years.
11 years.
Yes.
Uh, why
These
Kuwait?
are the camels. And I have to wait.
Why did you choose Kuwait and not UAE, Saudi Arabia, somewhere in Europe,
Well,
America, somewhere else?
well, maybe this is a good moment to complete the story so that you can understand. My husband is also working in the oil industry.
Okay.
And we have developed what you may want to call a dual career. So he's senior than me, and he had a PhD. So when we married, we have two daughters. But I was evaluated top in what I was doing at the company for 3 years in a row. When you are evaluated in the top, for your performance in the company constantly, the company offers you a scholarship to do
Okay.
a master or a PhD, and they offer me a scholarship. So off I went to do my master at the Colorado School of Mines. And I went with our two daughters. One was only 2 years old, Claudia,
Wow.
and my other daughter was 4 years old at the time, Alessandra. So off I went with our two daughters alone. And then my husband, in order to accompany us after 6 months, the first semester, he took a leave of absence because there was no policy in the company to send both. Exactly,
Okay.
like I think may happen
Okay.
in many companies in Kuwait and all over the world. So he took a leave of absence and he accompanied us. When we went back to Venezuela, uh, I kept working, and we always supported each other. If he had to travel, I would stay with the girls. If I had to travel, he would stay with the girls. So we have supported very much the careers of both. So there was a moment in Venezuela when there was a big turmoil, and I ended up working with Halliburton, and he was working with a private company, my husband. But then I was selected and voted vice president of the SEG, which is the Society for Exploration Geophysicists.
You mean internationally? Yeah.
International. Yeah, I was the
Mashallah.
vice president for the whole society. So I went to Houston, like on duty to do the role of vice president, and my husband accompanied me. While I was in the meeting and all that, he was touring the commercial exhibition and the technical presentations and all that. And it was the first year that Kuwait Company was exhibiting at that
Okay.
conference. Okay?
Okay.
And you know what happened? They offered my husband a job. At that time, it was the Research and Development Department, Research and Technology, R&T, at KOC. So he thought carefully what to do, what not to do. We didn't know a lot about the Middle East. And of course, that is completely different culturally than Venezuela.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So at the time, Aramco showed some interest, and we were interviewed at Houston. But at the time, Aramco said that they would hire my husband, and that the female, not necessarily, that they will wait 1 year or so, and perhaps they would then offer me a job later. So it was not, because I have always worked. I have
Yeah,
always.
yeah. You are
So
used to it, yeah.
yes, when KOC offered him a job, we together, we thought carefully what to do, what not to do, because I was working in Halliburton. So he decided, okay, you know what? I'm going for a year to see if it's good environment like that. Okay, so off he went. But then Halliburton offered me, if I was interested, there was a regional operations manager role here based in Kuwait. So they don't offer you the transfer, you have to apply. So I applied for it. They called me, they interviewed me, and they flew me to the region, to Dubai. And they wanted to know me. I stayed here for a month. all kinds of interviews and practical job with them. Then I realized why. They had never before had a woman manager, especially for a regional role, you know, in the corporation based in Kuwait. So I was the first one there. So I like it. They like my style and my experience, and I accepted the transfer, the job, and I moved here to Kuwait with our two daughters. After a while, after I think 2 years or so, it was me who knocked at the door of KLC in the sense that offering my services if there was interest. I was interviewed, and then I was hired by KLC. We both were working at KLC until a point where my husband retired.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned something that I was actually planning to ask you later on, but maybe I'll ask it now.
Yes.
You said that you have two daughters.
Yes.
One of the issues in Kuwait and maybe in the Arab world in general is that some women might feel like they can either have a career or a family, but they can't have both.
Yes.
Can you have both a successful career and a family life, or
well,
like if you can shine some light on that?
That is one of the most challenging elements of a career. And I would say it's not only a woman's challenge. I think it is a challenge for the family, in fact, because it would not be fair to say that the men do not care about the children. I see my husband is a very loving father, and all the time, you know, as worried as me for the good education of Alessandra and Claudia. And I bet you also are, and you know, men in Kuwait do care about their children very much, as we know, right? So that is the education of the children, and the balance of family and work is an issue for the family, not only for the women. This is one of my perspectives, of course. But I of course, I acknowledge it's not a common ground everywhere. And yes, it is true. Generally, the woman takes the burden and the major part of the education of the children. And of course, we have the children as women. It's our vision of mothers, right?
Yeah.
So what I can tell you is that it is challenging when the kids are very small. So I was blessed to have the support of my family, because my two daughters were small in Venezuela, and my mother, the grandmother, right, was helping me, taking care of them if I had very long trips. And for example, 1 week business trip or a course overseas, for example, no? So how do you balance? Is it feasible? That is an excellent question.
Yes.
And I think that when you have to ask, not necessarily me, because you see my achievements, and small or big they are, okay? You can see them, you can notice, and I have developed a career which is very visible, and for me it has been very rewarding. About this, you have to ask my daughters, and or ask about them. What are they? So I have Alessandra is a psychologist, and she has a master in organizational psychology. She's working in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
And Claudia is a medical doctor. She's fighting COVID in London.
This is the dream of every Arab mother, is one of the children to be the medical doctor. Yes.
So our two daughters have achieved their careers. I see that they are happy. And I think that also for them, the experience of having two parents, the both of us, in the oil industry, perhaps, is very strange. None of them studied petroleum engineering, but maybe they were, you know, too much at home. They acquired petroleum engineering by osmosis, you know. The thing is that they studied completely different careers, but I think that, mashallah, as you say, they are happy, okay, and that they are developing their own lives with success and with you know, a healthy approach to balance work and life.
Yes.
I think it's challenging, but most importantly, you have to Are you married, Ibrahim? Sorry for the
No,
question.
no, not yet.
You have to choose.
But hopefully.
You have to choose very wisely, because you need a partner always
Yes.
who is very supportive of your career, and
As
you
you
have to be very supportive of the career of your wife.
Yes.
Because it's the only way to have success, balancing both things.
I completely agree with you that it shouldn't just be on the wife or the mother.
Yes.
That it should be shared between the two parents.
Another thing that is important is the legislation of the country where you are. In Venezuela, there is a period of, I think, 2 months before you give birth, and
Of
4 months
leave.
for leave after you give birth. And then there is the breastfeeding permission, 2 hours, which is very similar to what I have seen happens in Kuwait. There is a period where you can stay home. So legislation supports this. And, I think that, yes, you can cope. It's challenging, but it's doable. So I want to encourage all the women in petroleum engineering to not shy away.
Not be afraid, yeah.
Yes, don't be afraid. It's challenging, but it's feasible, especially with a supporting partner.
Yes, definitely. You mentioned that you worked in Venezuela and now for quite a bit of time in Kuwait.
Yes.
And you studied in Houston in the States?
No, in Golden, in Colorado School.
Oh, sorry. You in Colorado. The conference was yeah. What are the cultural differences or similarities that you have seen? Any cultural difficulties you faced when you first came to Kuwait?
Well, you know that when I was going to come to Kuwait to work in Halliburton, they gave me what they call a multicultural and an onboarding for working in the Middle East.
Okay.
It was a training for that. And you have to remember, Venezuela is in Latin America.
Yes.
And they explained like this. I'm going to tell you because this is a funny story. They told me, listen, when you go to the Middle East, you will see that people will greet you like this. Hello, good morning, how are you? How's your family? How's your daughter? How's your son? How is life? How is the work? Everything okay? Your health? Everything okay? Perfect. Okay. And then they start talking.
Yes. Yeah.
And I am going like, this is exactly what we do in Venezuela. This is exactly what we do in Venezuela. So it was like home. You understand? It was the same. Because I'm going to tell you, in Venezuela, we say, hola, ¿cómo estás? You ask the mother, you ask for the father, you ask for the children, you ask for this, for that. How's the health? How's the work? What happened? This, that. And then you start talking. But it was funny for me to see an American person teaching me. Because I said, what is this? I mean, it's the same that happens in my country. But another thing is that I found in the Middle East, in Kuwait, but of course in general, which is shared, no? Especially in the GCC, there is a high value a high praise for the family values. And I am Italian Venezuelan. And as an Italian side of me, of course, and the Venezuelan side of me, also family comes first.
Of course.
Right?
Yes.
So for me, it's something that we share, the high praise, and we value a lot the family. So that was a common ground. So I prefer to speak about the common ground, which is the culture, the family values. We are very talkative. I think
as we are.
Yes. So I think that we also share that. So I think we are very talkative. Another thing is that I will tell you some amazing similarities. When I left Venezuela, my country was producing 3 million barrels of oil. So how much produces Kuwait?
This is where I embarrass myself, and but three, okay.
Yes, it's the same level of production. Then Then there is the similarity that both countries were founders of OPEC.
Yes. Venezuela is the only non-Arab founder.
Correct. And then there is also the similarity. Both nationalized the industry in 1976.
Oh, the same date. Okay.
Both countries have also the national oil company, and not private. They have a national oil company. In Venezuela, it's called PDVSA. Here it's called APC and the subsidiaries. And in Venezuela, it's called PDVSA and the subsidiaries. I mean, so I'm telling you, instead of talking to you about what are the big differences, I prefer to tell you definitely about the common grounds. Because that is why I was able to adapt here, no? There are differences, of course, there are differences.
Yeah, in every culture, every country, even between the Arab countries or the Latin American countries.
Very obviously the language, because أنا متكلم عربي.
Hello? Oh, sorry.
So I can defend myself.
It cut.
Okay. I was going to tell you that obvious differences are the language.
But you speak. I heard you. I heard you speak.
Yes.
ماشي. تتكلمين عربي.
شوية. Yes.
شوية.
And of course the religion, and of course the government system is also different. So those are obvious differences that percolate through, the whole society and the country.
We should give you. Yes, no. I like how you thought to mention the commonalities to bring people together rather than focus on the differences. Yeah. We should give you Kuwaiti nationality. You have been here for 10 years and.
When are you going to give me that? I want you to take a photo of this moment.
Wait. Okay.
With your mobile.
I will try to screenshot. Yes. Okay, I got it. I got it. I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, for women and for in general, for men or women, what skills do you need to be successful in the petroleum or energy industry?
Okay. Well, that's a very good question, Ibrahim. Thank you very much for that question. That enables me to tell you that most importantly, you have to do your work with the best quality, okay? So that implies that when you are studying, you better, have a high grade, so that it's a way to learn and to demonstrate that you have learned the competencies and the technical skills, okay? So nothing beats hard work, nothing. I mean, no sponsor, no WASTA, of course, nothing beats hard work and quality work. In addition to that, I would like to highlight, I am the chair of the SPE Business Management and Leadership Committee. And we advocate to advance the skills which are relatable to the human skills, right? And leadership skills. So be able to promote a good communication, be able to deliver a presentation about your engineering facts that conveys clearly what are the decisions to be taken based or grounded on engineering is basic. So you need to have an excellent level of communication as part of your career. Besides that, I would like to encourage for a successful career to always have sponsors in whatever company you are working, okay, and mentors from the beginning. Somebody that can help you on identifying how to advance your career in petroleum engineering is very important. So a sponsor is a person that is not in the sense of financial sponsor.
Financial, okay.
No, a sponsor in the sense of somebody who opens opportunity for you, who will give you the opportunity to be part of a committee or to invite you to be part of a task force or a group team, study team, so that you can then show your leadership, your capacity. Perhaps, when there is the opportunity to deliver a presentation in front of the CEO of the company you are working for. So, as you can see, there are two elements. Hard work, nothing beats hard work, and excellent work. And the other one is your human and leadership skills.
Thank you. Also, another question, which is it is something that is going on right now, the changes in the oil and gas industry. we are seeing very, very, very low prices
Yes.
that we've never seen in quite a while. How do you see the oil and energy industry in the years to come? Do you think it will recover? Do you think we will recover from
Oh,
what
yes.
we are going through?
Yes. You know why? Because the demand of energy is an ever-growing demand in the world. So what we do, we shouldn't be ever shy to say that we are working in the oil and gas industry. What we do is critical, is pivotal, is very important, is something to be very proud of because we provide access to good energy, okay, and every time more and more ecologically friendly energy. We take care of, the GHG gases not to reach the atmosphere. So all the companies that I have worked for, PDVSA, Halliburton, KOC, they do care about the environment, and that is something I am proud of. So as the energy demand is incrementing, we will have some ups and downs, and yes, there will be more provision of energy given by the non-conventional and the new kind of energies, right? Like
The renewable and
solar,
solar, yeah.
exactly, electrical and others. But oil and gas will be there all the time. So what we need to focus is that production is more conscious, I would say, about the efforts of decarbonization that are needed for the planet. So it will be there. There is work for the petroleum engineering. It's probably not going to be all the time in discovery wells or exploration, but it's more towards monitoring the production, squeezing the reservoirs to the last drop, and producing in a more effective and efficient way, in a way that is more profitable. So the skills of specialization will be more and more needed because as reservoirs age all over the planet, okay, not only here, everywhere, okay, you require more EOR, enhanced oil recovery. You need to inject water to maintain the pressure of the reservoir, right, and be able to keep producing them. So the petroleum engineers will be more focused into the production areas, which are very specialized, even for other kinds of oil, no, very deep oil, and other kinds of heavy oil. For example, in Venezuela, the huge accumulation of oil that is there is the Faja del Orinoco, which is heavy oil. In Venezuela, that is produced with several, methodologies, including cold production and production assisted by steam. That is in Venezuela, which I know very well.
So, I mean, you don't think that, because the general trend, especially in Europe, for example, is that there are some countries that are almost 100% running on renewable energy. They're not using any hydrocarbon sources of energy. So you don't think that it will ever reach a point where demand is not needed in the world?
Well, I don't think you and I will see that moment. I think that for the next 100 years, oil will be very much needed. So I encourage, especially, you and your peers, that to feel confident, okay? And there are many reasons for that. I think that oil is here to stay because we also provide fuel for the transportation industry, right? So how can you completely change the way airplanes fly or energy to produce electricity? And don't forget that the majority of the population on Earth are located nowhere, no, in China and in India. And the countries still need to develop their own economies, and they will require a lot of energy.
Yes.
We need to be smart in producing this energy with respect of the environment.
As I mentioned before, the majority of petroleum engineering students in Kuwait, for example, they're girls, they're females.
Yes.
Do you think that petroleum engineering is not very attractive to girls, for example, because it has a lot of hard labor work, and you have to go to the field, and you have to be very active.
Well, as you are asking me about, I want also to state that my comments here are my personal comments.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
No
Yeah, yeah.
way representing KOC. I am not speaking on
Yes,
behalf
yes, of course.
Okay, this is my personal view, okay? You know what happens with the oil industry? That when you Google an oil worker, I guarantee you that the images that you get are all dirty men working in the rotary table, all dirty and
Yes.
cold because they are drillers, right?
Yes.
But I'm gonna tell you something. I have been very few times in situations where I get dirty. I
Okay.
can count with my two hands probably. Why? Because our industry is a very technological industry. And you can, for example, of course, working the majority of my life in field development, okay? What you work is in front of a computer with 2, 3 big screens, modeling the subsurface, in my case, and analyzing the fluids and the rocks that shape the reservoirs of the subsurface, which is exciting to understand and to visualize that. When I was in Venezuela, I was the first woman project manager for the 4D seismic. 4D seismic is to compare several 3D seismic volumes of the earth through production cycles, so that you can see where is, the production taking place and where is left, how efficient is your system, your productivity of the reservoirs, and where to drill left, where is the oil pockets that are remaining. So when you ask me, it's appealing for women. If you sit down, relax, and believe only what you see in the media, it's not appealing, not even for you, Ibrahim.
Yes.
Because I cannot imagine that you like to go to a job where you have to do all this every day, all dirty and this, very muscle kind of
Yes.
approach to work. No. But if I show you the modeling, the reservoir simulators, or the planning, perhaps how you decide on how to complete a well, right? How to organize and optimize your EOR injection, or perhaps a gathering center. It's exciting, and it's a work that you do generally using technology and your computer.
Yes.
And
The office or something.
it's a lot to be done. There are a lot of works that require operational edge. I mean, I don't think that you can really succeed in the oil and gas industry if at least once, of your periods of not only training but application is not spent with an operational experience and exposure, right? So do not shy away, would be my recommendation, of accepting, right, and an assignment to work in operations.
Okay.
From field development or operations, maintenance, or all our, segments of the oil industry require an operational edge. And that is true for upstream as it is true for downstream as well. You need the operational edge to really shine in your career.
And would you recommend fresh graduates to, I know you're in KOC, so, but I'm asking about your personal opinion, to go towards the government or the private sector? Because generally I've seen a trend in Kuwait where people are not too encouraged to go towards the private. They just want to go to KOC and, and have a stable job, as they say.
Well, I will again, this is my personal opinion. Yes. So I have worked in the private sector and in the national oil sector, especially in Venezuela. And as I told you, in a service company, okay? When this, I have seen there are benefits in both, okay? So working in the private sector is very appealing because you can see things moving many times faster, okay? They are very applied, very also hyper-connected. I would say that when I was working in PDVSA, which is the national oil company of Venezuela, you get to know other people from other countries, but it's through the professional societies. It's not generally what happens. But when I was working in a service company, for me, it was very appealing to be able to shape teams using people and expertise that perhaps was available in Mexico or in Brazil for a project in Venezuela. So I would fly people to come and shape, study teams for 3 or 4 months to solve a problem, to run an interpretation or a simulation, right, together, and produce one of these results that the client at the time, PDVSA, we had also ENI, we were working also for YPF, Shell in Venezuela. And it's wonderful. And that was, by the way, the first time I started working in English. So that was for me a challenge at the time, no? Because yes, you learn English, but remember I didn't do my master at that time so it was a lot of fun. For me, it was a full immersion. It was not easy. I stretched myself to achieve more. I could understand what it meant, the energy sector as a whole thing. So the private sector is thrilling, is a path of progress, is an opportunity to know other styles of working in other regions of the world, which is not necessarily the case when you're working in a national company like PDVSA or Petrobras or others in the world. So it's I would say it's a roller coaster that is worth the effort. Stable or not stable, Ibrahim, I think that things are changing, okay? And as it happened in Venezuela, not everything is written on stone. So the situations evolve, and I think that more and more we have to be flexible. Now, I think you are from the generation of the millennials, or maybe you are already generation Z. If you were born, you are generation.
I'm considered amongst the millennials.
Still in the millennials? Okay. Well, after you comes the generation Z, okay, which is even more into flexibility, and they do not necessarily want to purchase things but rent, right? And this is the success, for example, of the Uber system, to mention something very close to you. Or, for example, I don't have cable anymore. What I use is Netflix. I go directly with the internet as everybody else. So things are evolving in such a way that you will see that perhaps when you go out in 1 or 2 years from the university, when you graduate, I think that you should have an open mind, you and your people, that the private sector is a very valid option. Okay, very valid option. There is not only the national oil sector. And if you put in a balance both, I think there is pros and cons in both. But the pros of the private sector are many, that perhaps you need to know more to believe what I'm telling you. But the international opportunities, the multicultural exposure, the utilization of technology at everyday basis, and the configuration of teams from all regions and countries of the world is fascinating. It's fascinating. In the national companies, yes, there is perhaps so far more stability. It's also wonderful. You feel closer to you, the love for the country, because they are attached to the country, and that is a wonderful thing to feel and to work for. That is very motivating. And there is also the opportunity, perhaps, for the training to be more dedicated, maybe. In the service company, you have to immediately run, okay? But they also offer training, but it's a difference that it's worth taking a look at. I would not decide, because I have thrived in both, and I like them both.
Maybe a question specifically for your specialization, because
yes,
you studied geophysics, and
yes,
let's include perhaps geology and other petroleum related
yes,
topics, how important do you think it is for people to go into those fields? I know we're talking about petroleum engineering here, but many times you see that KOC and other companies, they require geophysicists, they require geologists, not just petroleum engineering. What is the link between all of these subjects and geophysics, especially, since that's what you said?
Geophysics is now also transitioning to be only an exploratory tool, to be a supporter of production. With geophysics, what you do is that you are able to detect to characterize, that is the right word, the subsurface. So as differently with the petroleum engineers, that you only see the data of a well, right, and several wells, so 1D, 2D, or 3D, you can extrapolate among wells. With geophysics, you directly see the three-dimensional shape of the reservoirs and the characteristics of those reservoirs. The relation that is among, geology, geophysics, and petroleum engineering is that through the integration of all these disciplines, you are able to better characterize your reservoir and your production schemes. So the geology will give you the clues about the rocks, porosity, permeability, and the other, topics like, for example, the age, the sedimentary system, the mineralogy, okay? What happens if it contains certain kinds of shale that may be damaged when you produce the reservoir and clog completely, right, the wells, production systems. With geophysics, what you do is that you have an image of the subsurface that properly calibrated with well data can give you a representation of how those porosities and permeabilities are distributed in the subsurface and the thickness of the reservoirs. So that helps the petroleum engineering, not alone, but with this integrated work of geologists, geophysicists, and petroleum engineers, to select the best areas to be drilled, okay? And the best field development plans in order to produce certain areas. So I hope I was clear, because
Yeah. And I think that also this is applied in the offshore rigs as well.
Oh yes, in offshore especially, because
Yes.
in offshore you don't have the opportunity to drill so many wells. So when you drill a well or you need a platform, you better be extra sure that you are drilling in the best location, because it's many times more expensive than drilling onshore. So it's imagine that the first successful experiments of 4D seismic, which is the seismic I was telling you that will compare the production cycle with different approach, comparing, so detect what happens, was in the Statoil. Now the company is called Equinor. At the time, they were the first and pioneers, because it. Okay, are you there? Are you there? Are you there?
Yeah. The connection cut. Okay. Yeah.
I was telling you that in offshore was especially critical to use geophysics. And as a demonstration of that, I wanted to share the example that in Norway, the company at the time was called Statoil, now it is called Equinor. They were pioneers in the application of 4D seismic. Why? Because all the production from the North Sea was coming from offshore. So it was very important to pinpoint where and how were these reservoirs to be developed and produced, because it was so expensive that they really wanted to make sure that they will, locate the platforms in the right place.
We have a question from one of our previous guests. He's saying his name is Dr. Ahmed Al-Kuh.
Okay.
He's saying, what do you think of the Kuwait Asian Movement in oil and gas sector.
No, I will not. I will not answer questions about KOC. Sorry.
No. I don't think he meant in KOC. Meant
in general,
just in general to
in the country.
General,
well, you know that. One thing that is important for any country in the world, I will answer in general, is to make sure that the national labor is skilled and prepared. When I was working in Venezuela, for example, they also applied a quota for the Venezuelan employees in the main industries of the country, including the oil and gas. So it's a movement that is very nationalistic, if you may, and that is expected in countries where they have a national oil company. I think that is a very generic answer that may be applicable to the question. Although I am not aware of the details here in Kuwait. So thank you for the question.
Maybe because of the time, we leave this as the last point or question.
Okay.
Which is just general advice for girls or female students that maybe have family pressure to not be very ambitious in their career, or how do we encourage girls, or what advice can you give to girls to try and be more ambitious in their careers?
Well, I always like to say that nothing substitutes hard work. So there is something that is called the tiara complex. Do you know what a tiara is? A tiara is like a crown for the princesses, no? And the queens. But when what you are wearing is not round, when it's round, it's called a crown. When it's, you put it like this, it's called a tiara. So now that we know what a tiara is, you know, there is something called the tiara complex. The tiara complex is something that we women, unfortunately, use a lot. That is explained as follows. You think as a woman that if you work a lot and you produce these wonderful results and reports and outstanding achievements and all that, somebody will notice that and will come and put a tiara on you like an award. And that never happens, my friends. So my recommendation is make sure your work gets noticed, okay? Second, make sure you have a mentor and a sponsor who can tell you how you can make your work noticeable, okay? A third recommendation that I would gladly give is make sure, okay, that you speak up and you defend your points with technical arguments. Do not stay silent, okay? And the only way to empower yourself is by practice and by doing. So do not shy away from attending meetings. I remember that when I first started working here, I had to encourage the young professionals, females, to do not sit separated from the big table at the center, but to sit at the table, right? So remember, you are part of the action. You are welcome, because I can see that that here men and women work very well together, okay, with a lot of respect and a very good professional environment. Do not shy away from success. And to not shy away from success is making sure that you speak up, you defend what you have done, and you make sure that what you are doing is valuable and recognized, okay? So do not engage in the tiara complex, because working alone in isolation and hoping that your supervisor or somebody will notice that you are there and you are doing an excellent job is never going to happen. Not even the female astronauts. They had to not only show their work a lot, but speak about that and show it and make sure they have sponsors and mentors that will make sure that other people notice they were there, okay? So stay silent and only work is not a good advice. speak up, do a good job, but make sure that you have mentors and sponsors and that your work is noticeable is something that is a good advice from my point of view.
Thank you so much, Senora. It was.
I want to appreciate the invitation. I hope it was useful. I encourage if any of the listeners today would like to ask me questions, don't feel shy. I am very open even by social media. You can come forward and I always have an open heart to reply to your questions and to your inquiries. By all means, count on me and well, thank you for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to be with the students.
Thank you so much. We will save this on the IGTV so that people can view it later.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Have
Thanks again. Bye. Okay, bye-bye.